We're recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the October Alloy Community Call. We switched, I think, since the last recording. We were on more of a presentation format. We have since switched to a more conversational office hours format. So there's not going to be a big presentation or anything. It's just going to be us chatting with people. So I will open up the floor to any questions or comments or anything anyone wants to talk about. You can raise your hand, you can put it in chat, you can interrupt me. They're all valid and all good. I think you might be muted. I can see your Herb. No, I see a little muted icon in the corner of your screen.
Oh yeah, but I was not talking anyway.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you looking around. I thought maybe.
But I can. Okay, if nobody wants to
If
talk.
you got a topic, bring it up. Yeah.
Do you have numbers like comparisons between Alloy and Prometheus agent for resource usage? Basically, it seems that on my setup for like same kind of configuration, Alloy uses like twice as much memory as Prometheus agent, and I'm a bit surprised.
So let's talk about your configuration a little bit because I have maybe an idea here. Are you using Kubernetes Discovery?
Yes.
Yeah. So especially if you're running a very large cluster. So to give you some background on this, is Alloy to display in the UI kind of the arguments. It caches those arguments in memory. So if you're like discovering 1,000 pods and each one of those have 50, 60 labels, which is not uncommon, that's probably high, but a lot of labels. Those are all stored in memory to be displayed.
Okay.
And
Well, at the moment, it's not a big cluster yet.
Oh, yeah. So, well, how much memory are we talking about? Do we have are we talking gigs or megs?
With Prometheus agent is using 14 gigs and I have 27 with Alloy.
Oh, then yeah, that sounds higher than I would expect for that. Can you send me a heat profile?
Yeah. I did not want to fire straight right now with this kind of questions because I did not investigate yet. It's just numbers that landed yesterday for some of our first tests on one cluster, and I wanted to know a little bit more. But if you had just numbers, usually if that's expected or not,
that number's high.
Yeah.
I would not expect that value. It's higher than I would expect from Discovery Kubernetes, which is generally one of the kind of pain points. What else? Sometimes it can be the label store. Doesn't handle really high cardinality sometimes, so it could be that. But yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. Like if I have a heap, I can identify it. At least identify the hotspots pretty instantly. But yeah, I would say that's abnormal. That amount of difference. If you told me it was like, Prometheus agent was 14 gigs and Alloy was 16, 17, I would say sure, that's probably expected. This doesn't sound like it is. We do have. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, the page showing how to profile Grafana Alloy for resource consumption is great. I'll read it carefully and give it a try. But I have basically, I did not even start looking at it. It's a colleague of mine just compiled the numbers quite high level from the clusters, global clusters, resource usage, and so I really have to investigate before going further in the discussion. But
Is a few other kind of leading questions that maybe you can research a little bit. Are the like resource limits set the same on both of them? Or that would be something to look into.
I don't think we set resource limit on it for now.
Okay. That could be so if you set a memory limit, it will automatically set the go mem limit to that in Alloy. I don't think Prometheus Agent does it, but in Alloy it will, which may tamp that down some. Now it kind of depends on where that memory is coming from. I assume you're looking at memory that the C advisor or the container itself is reporting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there could be a pretty big gap there of Go not returning memory to the operating system.
Okay. So basically, it means that for Prometheus Agent, we have Go mem. What is it? I don't.
Go mem limit.
It's not a mem limit. It's basically that it does the garbage collecting when it uses basically twice the amount of memory. So it will do some garbage collecting more often than if you have a go mem limit set to a high value. And if Alloy sets a go mem limit to the node size, it's normal that it uses lots of memory then.
Wait, yeah. So it'll normal, like it depends. It shouldn't use more than double. So you have the actual memory that like Go is using actively. Generally, it won't use more than double than that, or it shouldn't, unless some settings are out of whack. And then, yeah, probably coming to the limit of what we can talk about without a heat.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, Alloy will not. If you don't set a go mem limit, it'll assume whatever the node is, which is often not a great thing because you're sharing. If you have a 128 gig node, you probably don't have 128 gig memory when you're running a lot of pods and containers on it. So setting a go mem limit can definitely help that.
So yeah, setting a go mem limit would help, but okay, I'm trying to think about the side effects of. So if I set some memory limits on my pods, it will set a go mem limit and it will try to fit in below this limit. But it also means if I have a VPA, for instance, it will always reach the limit, and VPA will keep increasing it.
So I don't remember. Does a VPA restart it, or does it just change the limit for memory?
No, it restarts the pods.
Okay, so then yeah, it would keep bouncing it up then. So yeah, that would be. I do think there's a problem here, or there is something less than ideal, based on the numbers you gave me of 14 to 27. So I think the setting the memory limit will help, but I think there's probably something underlying here.
Okay. Yeah, I have to play with it, but that's an interesting point.
Yeah. We added the automatic setting of go mem limit a few months ago. So if you're running a very old version, it may not have it. But if you're running anything in the last 2 months, you should have it in there.
No, we're up to date.
Okay. And yeah, feel free to, if you get that heap, you can DM it to me in the private chat in the Alloy community Slack. Just ping me, send me a direct message, and I'll take a look at it and give you some feedback.
Okay, nice. Thanks.
Other questions? Well, we can always prime the pump a little bit here. Have you did you look at the? Do y'all use OTel any kind of an environment, Herb or Sullivan?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just trying to get some feet. Can you say that again, please?
We have some hotel, but not native hotel from collection point of view. Okay. Let me rephrase. I get the metrics via hotel collector in Alloy and send it to Prometheus and Elasticsearch.
Oh, do you use the converter, the exporter inside of Alloy to convert that from OpenTelemetry to Prometheus style?
Yep.
Oh.
Receiving it via hotel collector does the transform and for the Kubernetes attributes to add some attributes about the cluster, and then sends it via exporter to Mimir.
Okay, cool.
And Elasticsearch.
Maybe a leading question, but was there anything that made you choose Alloy versus OTel collector for doing that?
It was a, how to say, conscious decision not to add another collector into the picture. We are already having Alloy for everything else, and the application started to generate hotel metrics. They asked for native hotel collector, and I pushed back to get it into Alloy. So one collector, one thing to manage or upgrade or maintain from our point of view.
Awesome. Colin?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I just have one question. If I understand correctly, you are ingesting OpenTelemetry data and you are converting it to Prometheus metrics. But actually, Mimir has a native OpenTelemetry endpoint, so I don't think it's really necessary to convert to Prometheus format if you have OpenTelemetry metrics. I think you could just so you could send it straight to Mimir, and it should be fine.
That's true, but when we start to play with it, yeah, we have a for non-production environment, we have Grafana open source GTM running in our premises, and it was not with that ability at that point. So I stuck to Prometheus way. While asking that, is it something if I push it directly to hotel endpoint in Mimir, will I be able to query via normal from QL or not?
You will be able to query. The thing I don't know if we can promise is that the labels will be the exact same. It is possible that the labels are different. There might be some slight differences in the label naming. I'm not sure if our internal converter behaves the same as the OTLP gateway converter, essentially. So I think that might be the only danger in switching over to it. It might break some dashboards, but you can definitely query it with PromQL.
Good, because if I don't use the Kubernetes attributes processor, I get the namespace like K8s underscore namespace. Pod name is K8s underscore pod, etc. If I use the transformation, it gets the correct name. But I don't know, as you say, I can try. Do we prefer to directly send it to hotel endpoint or the other way around? Any preference on that from Other perspectives out of usage?
Yeah, well, now the OpenTelemetry endpoint in Mimir is stable in the latest versions of Mimir. So we usually recommend people to just send OpenTelemetry metrics straight into Mimir without converting them. Tends to be a little simpler. I mean, if you already have your pipeline working and it's working totally fine for you, then definitely feel free to do this. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that if you're starting up now with a fresh pipeline, it might be easier just to send the metrics straight through. Or if you find any issues in your existing pipeline, then instead of debugging the issues, maybe you could just try sending the metrics straight through.
I see. Yeah, I can give it a try, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the main benefit of sending metrics straight through to the OpenTelemetry endpoint is that over time, the ability of Mimir to ingest native hotel data will improve. For example, it will ingest resource attributes in a better way, and then you'll be able to take advantage of those kinds of things. If I understand correctly, at the moment, resource attributes from hotel metrics, they are not made into Mimir labels, into metric labels, because that would just increase the cardinality of the metrics and it would increase the costs. So instead, there is a target info metric, which contains those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, pretty much agree with. Don't change it unless you got a reason. But greenfield.
Yeah, there is the general rule. If it is working, don't touch.
Yeah. Hey, Carl. Just FYI, we're recording right now, so just give you a heads up as you joined in. And we're at a kind of open Q&A or talk about stuff. So if you have any topics you want to talk about, feel free to bubble them up or any issues.
All right, thanks, Matt. Can't think of anything at the moment.
Awesome.
I have one question about using ingesting logs via Alloy. I remember we discussed that in the Slack, but I couldn't find it back. Probably it's gone with the limit in Slack side. There was the daemon set. Now we are using the daemon set to collect logs via from the node var log yada yada, and there was the one running as a stateful set or deployment, collecting it via the API call. At that point, when we first start with Grafana agent old version, it was noted as experimental, etc. Now I don't see it. So which one is the preferred? Which should be the preferred way in normal terms and conditions?
So if when I get access, I say start with the file source Kubernetes approach. It requires less permissions. It doesn't create a daemon set on every pod or every node. And it you kind of get a lot of labels for free, which is generally good, but it is less performant and it does put more pressure on the control plane. So I would say generally start there. And if you see, especially your control plane starting to fall down, or you don't have control over your control plane, and I think generally like the cloud providers, depending on the number of nodes you have in a Kubernetes cluster, will bump up your control plane. So it's possible you don't have control over that and you're not at a size that they bump it up. You may run into problems, but I would suggest starting with the Kubernetes source. And if you can make it work, it's better. It's more scalable. It's less permissions. And you get the labels for free. Now, We are working on some features, Pollen in particular, on being able to join more arbitrarily to pull in those Kubernetes labels that if you're using a daemon set, which is pretty valuable. Because people generally want the Kubernetes labels. And the daemon set one really just gives you namespace and I think the container UID or the UID from the file path.
Yeah. By setting pressure on the control plane, do we mean based on the number of pods it's collecting data, or size of the number of nodes and other size constraints on the cluster level?
I personally believe it is the number of node, the number of connections. I think is sometimes the pain point. Although I have seen it just the volume of logs coming out of it, feeding it fast enough. Because you are kind of accessing, and it depends on the chattiness of the logs. If you're just spewing out very unstructured, huge gobs of logs, that's going to be different than like a more cut down application that's maybe not spitting out volumes of logs.
Yeah. Okay. Then I will stick to daemon set. One of the applications is crazy generating logs.
Yeah, I talked to a lady at ObsCon who like her log line, a single log line could be megs of length.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, just stick to daemon set because I that feels painful to pull from the control plane.
Yeah. I have some from time to time I got long log record size issues from Grafana Cloud dashboards, billing dashboard. I see that we are hitting the limit from time to time. So yeah, better to stuck with the old way.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of these daemon sets.
Yeah. I really hope, and there's also a few caveats with the Kubernetes source logs. We found a bug or an issue with pulling logs from them at a certain Kubernetes version that they have since fixed. And there's kind of a workaround in the code to work around that. But it's a hack to make it work on the older version. So if you're stuck on like an old version of Kubernetes, I don't know off the top of my head the version of which one it was. That's possible if you're on and this like a year ago. It's possible that you could run into that. But if you're already running it, pulling from daemon sets, go that route. And if you have a brand new greenfield environment on a different cluster, start with the Kubernetes source pods.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other comments, questions, or anything they want to bring up? All right. Then I will say thank you for everybody for showing up. Had a good conversation. I will put this up on YouTube probably in a day or two, and you'll be able to see it if you want to. Feel free to jump on the community channel if anything pops up, and we'll see y'all next time then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.